On the surface, Prairie Grove, Arkansas looks a lot like a lot of other small towns in America, but it may someday be remembered as one place where the health risk caused by factory farms devastated the lives of ordinary citizens. Chicken waste was routinely spread on land next to the community and directly across the street from its school. Tests of household dust in homes in the town revealed arsenic levels far above those normally considered safe. A number of families have sued poultry companies to hold them liable for the illnesses suffered by their children. One of these was the family of Holly Green, who spent weekdays in her babysitter's home in this neighborhood.
Our kids were very actively involved in lots of different activities. Holly did cheerleading camp, and she was involved in basketball and softball, and my son was involved in baseball, and we were just a very active family.
So we was getting ready to go to, I was helping Whitney in her classroom, getting ready to start the new school year. And people came up to us and said that Holly looked a little yellow. Her eyes, her skin, and of course this is the summer, she had a tan, she's outside all the time playing. I took her to the doctor. I drove from Lincoln to Fayetteville. They took a blood sample, and by the time I got back to the house in Lincoln, they called me and told me I need to bring her back to the emergency room immediately. It was a life or death situation. So I brought her back up there, and they told us that she had cancer. Didn't know what type. Just told her we had cancer. And that's when they life-flighted her to Children's in Little Rock, and it took them probably a week to diagnose that it was actually T-cell.
Mm-hmm. Really, she was a very sick little girl for several months. It took about 6 months for her to actually recover from her initial diagnosis and her initial chemotherapy. We traveled to Children's Hospital once every 3 weeks. We just took off praying that we would come back one big happy family.
Then it was just after the chemo, she was just so sick.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you'd sit there and every week, month, I mean, that's all the thing you thought about was her temperature. I mean, you know, that was the main, if her temperature went up, you knew she had an infection.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only thing you're watching is all the machines on her, and you kind of learn how to read them. But infection set in, and her breathing, she couldn't breathe on her own. And her lungs kept filling up, and she kept.
They put her on the vent to do the procedure, and then all her organs pretty much just shut down after that. So we left Seattle without our daughter. We came home with the rest of our family, but she didn't survive.
The doctors told us that there seemed to be a high number of people in northwest Arkansas, especially children.
And we knew several people at Children's Hospital when we were there, which was what was so weird. People that live across the street from us right now, actually, their son was diagnosed with cancer 1 month before Holly was diagnosed with cancer. We knew them. We were at Children's Hospital and we knew them. A little boy from Prairie Grove was at Children's Hospital the same time we were there. We knew them. We knew Mike and Beth. I mean, how strange is it for that many people to be clustered at Children's Hospital with cancer at the same time? You start connecting the dots and thinking, you know, this child lived here. We lived here. They lived there. They lived there. Look at all these dots we're connecting of all these people who are living in such a close proximity. The information started popping up that it might have something to do with the chicken litter. We just never imagined we were being poisoned by chicken litter, something we'd smelled our entire lives.
No, other than I just don't wish anybody to go through what we went through.
Yeah. When the most precious thing in your life gets taken from you for no good reason, you'll always wonder what it could have been like.
A number of families have filed lawsuits against the major poultry companies who spread their arsenic-contaminated waste next to Prairie Grove. In fact, arsenic-contaminated waste from several poultry companies was laid on the same land. Relying on the fact that the contaminated waste in question came from several companies, the local court dismissed the family's claims against all the companies and stated, quote, "The burden is on the plaintiff to prove that the product applied was a substantial factor applied by a specific defendant." You know, how are we going to decide, other than through speculation, that this is Tyson's or Cargill's or Simmons or Peterson's that is causing these injuries? The dismissal of the poultry companies as defendants left the manufacturer of the arsenic compound as the only remaining defendant. The decision to dismiss the chicken producers as defendants is on appeal. The plaintiffs argue that established precedent requires all of the defendants to be jointly and severally liable, and the defendants are themselves responsible to apportion the damages among themselves. In a study of arsenic contaminants of household dust in Prairie Grove, the authors of the study, published in the scientific journal Environmental Forensics, concluded, quote, "The findings of roxarsone in household dust is the final definitive evidence that broiler litter arsenicals of airborne contaminants in areas of high-density poultry operations, such as those in and around Prairie Grove, Arkansas, the levels of arsenic found in the majority of homes tested are high enough to represent a significant health risk of arsenic-related diseases." Arsenic is not just found in the dust from chicken litter. It has also been found in the meat of chickens sold for consumption by the public.